بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم إنا نستهديك لأرشد أمرنا وزدنا علما ينفعنا الحمد لله رب العالمين نواية التعلم والتعليم والتذكر والتذكير والنفع والانتفاع الإفادة والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم والدعاء إلى الهدى والدلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله مرضاته وقرب ثوابه سبحانه وتعالى. So of course we're continuing our readings, our Sunday readings of the beginning of guidance. Alhamdulillah, we're approaching the end of the book now. We're preparing to do what we call a khatam as we approach the end of the book. So of course we've gone through the munjiyat, of course those saving graces. Now we're in the realm or the area of the book where he goes into the muhlikat, those destructive things that bring about a person's destruction, perdition, and what we call a su'ul khatima, or a bad ending to life. We seek Allah's refuge from that. But these are these muhlikat, those destructive things that must be avoided. The author, he gives us the muhlikat. He talked about the muhlikat of the jawarih, those things that we either do with our tongues, the eyes, ears, hands, feet, of the jawarih. So these are the external sins that we often know about. Now the author is going to go into the internal sins, those internal sins, the sins of the heart that are just or even more dangerous than the sins of the hands. And the author says, Imam al-Ghazali radiallahu anhu, he mentions that the sins of the heart, they're more difficult to deal with, right? And they're more difficult to treat. And he cites as one of the reasons for this is that people, unfortunately, abandoned treating the heart, right? People abandoned really focusing on the heart. So, and Imam al-Ghazali, he doesn't mince his words. He's calling out the scholarly class here. He's calling out the ulama, quote unquote. Right? He's calling out those scholars who focus on the apparent affairs while ignoring their own internal states. This is what Imam al-Ghazali is doing. So he's calling out the scholars here. He's saying to the scholars that you have left the affairs of the batin. You have left the internal affairs, right? So the affairs of the heart, that these scholars of the law or the letter of the law, that they've ignored it for too long, right? And this is not to say that the letter of the law is not important. Rather, it is very important. It's critical. But that we have two aspects to our Islam that we must balance. That we must balance the zahir and the batin. The zahir, that which is apparent, and that which is batini or internal. So we focus on, for example, those external things, doing what's the external things, and also such as avoiding sins, but also doing our prayers, fasting, and doing the external things, whether it's as it concerns avoiding or doing, abstention or being involved in something, engaging in something. So the external. So the scholars, he's saying, the scholars, they focused on purely the external, have written books and treaties and so on and so forth, but they've ignored the batin. And Imam al-Ghazali, he doesn't mince words. He attacks the scholarly class and he blames them for having let this happen. That we've become an ummah. We're very much focused on the letter of the law, but we've forgotten our hearts. We've forgotten love of Allah. We've forgotten the health of the heart. People have forgotten this. So Imam al-Ghazali, he is very, very critical of people who they focus on the letter of the law while forgetting about the spirit of the law. That is loving Allah, being in a good internal state and being connected with him, and also to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he's now going to go into, and we have to mention, because this is this problem being going to an extreme of focusing on the letter of the law to the extent that you forget about the spirit of the law or the internal, right? This is a balance that we have to have as a Muslim, and it's a balance that we often fail at. This balance, right? So some people, they go to the extreme and they focus on the letter of the law. Other people, they go to another extreme and they focus on only the internal things. They focus on that. So they focus on only the internal things, whereas the Muslims, we are balanced. The Muslims are balanced. So the Muslims are balanced between the internal and also the external. Very, very important, right? So, and I've seen extremes on both sides. So I just, unfortunately, I saw a lecture of a scholar who, or quote unquote scholar, but he claimed that a person doesn't have to study the external nature of the Prophet. This is a claim, I'll repeat it. He says, studying the shama'il, or the external form, the physical form of the Prophet, and the physical things that he did, his appearance, his manners, these things aren't so important, right? This is his claim. He says basically it's all about the internal things, the internal spirituality. This is the claim. That's one extreme, and it's misguidance. Again, Muslims are balanced between studying what's apparent and studying also that which is internal. There's a balance that we have to strike. Right? So Imam al-Ghazali, he's basically giving us this balance now when he talks about the external sins, but then now he's going to talk about the internal sins. So we see this balance, whether in terms of abstention or engagement. Okay, so the next internal sin that he's going to speak about now is ostentation. Ostentation, or